Hey everybody, I'm John. I collect cards. I hope you're all doing well. It is Friday, April 25th, and I thought it would be a cool idea, good idea to jump on here, do a quick video about what I'm calling the SGC conversation. Greg Midlife Cards had a really interesting three-person conversation with Darren, Return to Collecting, and Mike Baseball Collector, and it was actually a two-part video. And they went into eventually they went into SGC and their future. And I have a feeling a lot of you have probably seen that video already, but I thought I would offer a couple of cents here to the conversation, along with my good friend Steve, Vintage on Vintage. I'm going to bring him in right now. Hold on one sec while I bring him in here. Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Going well, John. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Thanks for agreeing to jump on here real quick. I thought it would be kind of, apropos for us to talk about what I think is going to start percolating around the vintage YouTube content creator community, and not even the content creator, commenters, and just overall vintage collectors who might watch YouTube videos of us, talking about vintage cards and modern cards too. It's this whole thing with SGC and with collectors, who owns PSA, buying SGC, acquiring SGC last year, a little over a year ago now. I think it was already. Hard to believe it was over a year ago now.
Yeah.
They had a really interesting conversation about what SGC's future is or could be. It's speculation, but there's speculation, there's truth, and the reality is usually somewhere in the middle. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm kind of still chewing it all, taking it all in and chewing it up and digesting it all. And I'm curious what your kind of immediate hot take is of Greg's video, and then also John 3D80's kid and Theo jumped on for a video right after that as well. And I thought it'd be good for us to jump in. So what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I watched both videos, and I thought, first of all, I thought Greg's video, I thought it was really interesting. I enjoyed it quite a bit. My take wasn't 100% that SGC is going away, but I do agree with a lot of what they were saying. Like Darren, I spent in my time in corporate America. I was with a lot of companies that bought other companies, and at the end of the day, you buy the company and you bring it into your business model.
Mm-hmm.
And he was absolutely correct when he said things like, like a company like SGC that's smaller, that's making market share, when they're trying to build that company, they're probably doing it at lower margins than what PSA is making. So now all of a sudden, parent company buys them and they need to make higher margins. So it's not overly surprising to me that they've been a little stagnant, because I think they're trying to figure out, how they're going to make the parent company happier, right? And then ultimately, SGC, I think you got to stop thinking of them as a company, in my mind, and think of them as a brand. So like when I was with Kraft Foods, we bought Nabisco, right? Nabisco was a company, Kraft was a company. Ultimately, Nabisco became a brand within the Kraft portfolio. Ultimately, SGC, in my opinion, is a brand within the collector's portfolio. I think it has a place.
I agree.
And I think they want to differentiate between the two. I think they want PSA to still be like the Cadillac, the place where the top end vintage cards go to, the place where the modern cards go to, the place where the Pokemon cards go to. But I think they also want to have, if that's the Cadillac, they also want to give you the Honda, right? They want to give you SGC, which is a good looking slab, which is dependable, which has quick turnaround. But it's not going to have all the bells and whistles, and I think that's on purpose. That's my take. My take is this is all on purpose, whether it goes away or not. And I don't know why they would have it go away, quite honestly, because they pretty much own the modern and non-sports markets, right? And when you look at vintage, They still have a solid share, but because they have both companies, they kind of own Vintage also. And Vintage is,
Yep.
of those three, is probably the least important to their future revenue stream, if you think about it, because,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I'm in agreement there in that it would seem like there's definite room for a brand for SGC to still be like, I mean, I know, I mean, I don't study the gem rate numbers each month, but I watch a couple of videos on occasion that show them. And, one thing I noticed, even say even at the start of the year was, SGC's percentage, where they were behind PSA in vintage was a lot less than overall, obviously. I mean, they were a solid number two in the vintage
Oh
space.
yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
very so, and they were gaining in the vintage space. So, I mean, it's like there's this, and we all know this among us vintage, collectors. I think a lot, most of us do already. But there is, I mean, there is an identity there for SGC already, and so I mean, business is business, and if it's something that they, just are intent on folding into PSA in some fashion, 18 months, 24 months down the line, I mean, it is what it is, I guess, and we'll have to adapt in some ways. But I have to think until it's like formally announced, unless there are really some obvious tea leaves to be read, which maybe they're already obvious to some that this is inevitable. I think I'm with you. I believe in that. I'm not fully there yet, thinking that that's inevitable. I still think there's a place to have the SGC brand within the collector's portfolio or under the collector's umbrella, so to speak. I think there are enough loyal SGC, um, greater, fans of, I don't want to say fans, but, people who are loyal to SGC in terms of for their collections. And I know we both are. Now you send the SGC quite a bit. You have,
Oh yeah.
like you recently did a whole series of SGC subs for the
Yeah.
70s, 80s special, which is part of the reason why I thought about doing this video was because I know you've had that whole series going. I haven't submitted much this year myself. I'm a little less like I'm doing it more strategically in terms of what I send in for grading right now. But knowing what you've been sending in lately, I mean, has that impact it, how is that factoring into kind of what your overall impression of the situation is with what SGC's future might be? Because again, it is a fine time. I think it's totally an appropriate time to start maybe thinking about churning here at what could be happening down the road. It's okay to speculate. I really think it is. I mean, this first few months, let's digest it. Let's hear what they're saying, in terms of corporate speak and all that. But I think it's totally an okay time for us to start speculating on this again.
Yeah, I think when I watched Theo and John talk, I think John, 3D80's kid, made a really valid point. Like, why, if you were collectors, why would you get rid of SGC and open up an opportunity for competition to come back in against you when you already control it? You control it. So my
Mhm.
theory is there may be some synergies, cost cuts. Like at some point, you may submit to SGC and it's not going to Boca Raton, Florida anymore. It's going to California
Or New
because,
Jersey. I think PSA's got New
or is it
Jersey
jury,
operations.
wherever PSA
Yeah.
is. I was confusing them with Greg Morris, but wherever PSA is, they may take everything and put it in their headquarters and then have a SGC division versus a PSA division, and your cards come in and they go in different, like there's going to be some synergies, some economy of scale that they're going to look to make more profitability on. They probably don't need two offices, two sets of overheads, right? That kind
Right.
of stuff could change in the future. I don't believe it's going away. For me, you know, I don't think it's going to make that big a difference, John. I think I like the way my slabs look in an SGC slab. I'm not worried about the value as much because my cards tend to be in the 4, 5, 6 range, and I I'm a big believer that most of those cards would be more valuable taking them out of the case and selling them ungraded than graded, because I think graded puts them in a window when you're in that 4, 5, and 6 range. I think when you've got the high end, and people are paying thousands of dollars for a card, they like having the grading piece
Mhm.
of it. But
But
yeah,
you do it because you enjoy doing it and you like how they look in the tux,
I love how they look in the tux.
along
Yeah,
with
and
thousands of other people.
a lot of has been said that they think they're slowing down. I really believe that this special had them backed up. You and I were talking offline a bit.
Yeah.
I grade between 100 and 110 cards a year, and I usually spread it out over about 5 submissions during the course of the year. I sent
Mhm.
86 cards in a month to them, John. 86.
Wow,
And I'm
God.
not the only one. I talked to
No,
people
certainly
out
not.
there. I've talked to like Billy Ballgame, who sent 40 or 50 cards. Ben at Blix Cards sent more than I've sent. Like, I think all of a sudden, John, 3D80's kid, probably wouldn't have sent his cards if it wasn't for the special. I think they got inundated. I think it was a way bigger response than they thought they were going to get. And I think they got behind.
Yeah.
And, they probably also, because of the constrictions of having to hit probably higher, better margins, they're probably not hiring any more graders. So they're probably, when you get hit like that,
All
like
right.
PSA, you get backed up. That's my thought, at least.
Here's my ridiculous thought for the video, and I know I threw it your way before I hit record. What do you think? And I trust me, my mind doesn't go like this a lot, but it does. It's once I heard their midlife video, once I heard Greg's video and their conversation, my mind, of course, went here. What do you think of? Did collectors, put that '70s '80s special out there, knowing it was going to clog up things, knowing it was going to back up times, and here's just another reason for us to eventually dial back SGC, and maybe if it loses the timeliness feather in its cap, so to speak, and all of a sudden it's now taking a month to 6 weeks to get your cards. Is that just one lever to pull in us getting ready to be okay without not having SGC as an option anymore? That is my crazy thought for the video, and I don't want to believe it, but gosh, it's Friday after a long work week, and so sure, my mind went there for a hot second, and it did just now.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not the case, but who knows?
I, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's more of, I think it's a revenue push also. I mean, if you think about a lot of the cards that you're seeing, some of the cards I sent in, I may not have. I wanted to grade. I'm a little different because I just want to get certain cards graded because I want them graded. But there's a lot of cards that are going in that people may not have graded if it wasn't for a $12 cost, right? Because they didn't want. And it sounds like a lot,
Mhm.
but $3, and when you're sending in 30, 40 cards makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah,
And
I
these aren't
graded
cards.
the cost of four. Or whatever, roughly.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and these aren't cards that are going to go that you would necessarily go to PSA. A lot of these are cards. I've seen a lot of people take the opportunity to send in childhood cards that they've pretty much they have no money invested in it. So for $12, if it comes back a 4, it's worth $10, it's worth
Well, I'll
twelve
tell you right
bucks. They
now,
don't
I'll
care,
grade
right?
video probably I'm supposed to get my package on Monday, finally, after about 5 weeks, I think it'll be. My Ozzie Smith rookie 79 tops graded 2.5, and I love it.
Yeah.
So, exactly, just what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's just a total
It
beater that I wanted to see in a slab as a nice little childhood memento, and multiply that by 100,000 probably, you know what I mean? Or more.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
you'll
think
probably get
it's been a I think it's been a good revenue stream for them. I'm gonna guess that I don't know their business, but I'm going to guess that their their revenue stream the last 30 to 40 days has been some of the highest they've had in the last year because they've gotten inundated with cards. I just firmly believe it.
yeah, yeah. Part of me thinks, and this is kind of my overall kind of thought about what if we lose SGC. I think there are grading companies have come and gone, I guess. And I just got back in the hobby 5 years ago, so like the GAIs of the world, and
Yeah.
other some of those other grader, maybe there were other grading companies from days gone by, that I just wasn't involved with. But like I saw, I've been at the Strongsville show I was looking, I think I showed it to you. I was looking at a Fred Clark T206. He's on my want list in my player manager little checklist I have. It was in a GAI slab. Very nice card. I ended up going in a different direction. But it wasn't because of the slab, but I knew I was going to have to cross it, and I was going to cross it to SGC. But I'm thinking, like, 10 years down the line, let's say SGC is no more 2 years from now, 10, 12 years from now, does SGC start to lose its cachet as a what was one of the, I guess, OGs in grading? I want to say not necessarily because of the way they would have gone out of the fold. It's not like they went out because someone. I think it was in maybe I think John and Theo's video where maybe one of them said it wouldn't be because they sucked. It was like whereas it's just because of they got acquired or they decided to sell, etc. But I think it's a combination of they have been respected. I mean, I'm talking about vintage cards specifically here. I think if you have modern or ultra modern in an SGC slab, I would be like, if I had a lot of them, I'd be not, I don't want to say nervous, but I'd be looking to move them. Just because, especially now, because the turnaround time is turning out to be, you're not getting them back in 2 to 3 weeks anymore. You're getting them back in 4 to 5 to 6 weeks. And the whole point with, creating a shiny card and getting a 9.5 or a 10 was to move it quickly, to beat before you get it back from PSA. And there was a little bit of a business model for people who were doing that, to churn for more churn. If that is not an issue anymore, or not as much of a thing because of the time difference now getting your cards back, and then the SGC for the modern thing ultra modern thing to me is not really there, and I'm not really in that space anyway. But just in terms of vintage, I like to think years from now, if there is no SGC, that cards like this, just a combination of the tucks and just they have a place in the vintage space, and I don't think that's going to go away like that. I really don't. So I like to think that a card like this is still, all of a sudden, like, its value is not going to plummet by 50%. Let's just say. I really don't think so. Or I'm wearing I wanted to show a few cards in this video.
I love it.
I'm wearing my New York Giants hat, so a card like this, it's a beautiful card, Leo DeRocher. It just, to me, it wouldn't look quite the same in a PSA slab. It's sort of for cards like this, it's not an 8 or a 9, so it's not like an ultra high end card. It's a pretty nice card, but it's like this is where look, eye appeal kind of like factors into not just value. Like, I equate going PSA for value. I equate going to SGC for appreciation and look and aesthetics as a collector. And so, to me, this card just wouldn't look as good in a PSA slab. That's just me, and I love having this card. And at some point, will I flip it or sell my collection? Yeah, I probably will. I don't see myself having this until my last days, so to speak. I do see myself parting with the collection years and years from now. That's another video I'm planning to do at some point. But here's one more. Like, this just wouldn't look as good in a PSA slab for me. I'm going to show 205. Show one more card just to kind of make my point with this. Here's a Frank Frisch New York Giants what is it, 120? Yeah, E120. This isn't a PSA slab, and this thing is all crooked and shaking around in here. I mean, not literally like shape, but if you you moved it, it would adjust itself in here because it's not snug. And this is like PSA didn't slab this well, and it's not the only example where they don't know how to they don't have the right size, kind of fill or whatever. And SGC does have the right one for this. Am I going to cross it? I'm probably not, but I still love the card. I wish it was in an SGC slab, frankly, but I don't know. I just think for the vintage, I'm talking a long time on this point, but I think in those vintage cards, though, I think the SGC talks and just sort of, I don't think that's going to instantly dry up and go away, even if there is no more SGC to send new submissions to. What do you think?
No, I agree. I agree. It happened to Beckett, right? But I don't think the Beckett slab had the visual appeal that the SGC slab does. I know that there's a lot of vintage collectors in our community that are hit between 40 and 60 years of age that love SGC. And I think they will continue to buy, even if you can't send anything to grade, there's going to be a lot of SGC slabs on the market and they'll
I think,
continue to buy them. They'll continue to buy them. I think one of the points I think Theo made it in his was, the younger kids that are doing Pokemon today and are doing it with PSA because it's the way to go. Well, if they decide 20 years from now to cross over to be vintage baseball people, they're probably going to stay with who they know, right? Like
right.
when I started back in this hobby, John, I only knew of PSA, and that's who I was going to submit all my cards to was PSA, but they were backed up 6 to 8 months. So I was forced to look for something else. And then I found SGC and I looked at it and it appealed to me. And I brought my youngest daughter on and said, which of these do you like best? And she said, I like the black one way better. It just looks better, Dad. And I agreed with her. And then I went down that path from there on. But I didn't know any better when I first came back. When I first came back, it was PSA in my mind or nothing at all.
Yeah.
So
Here's another thing. I mean, there's intellectual property there, I would think, to some degree. I mean, sure, another company could probably do a black insert in some way, but I don't know. I mean, it's like that's their trademark. You know what I mean? It's sort of like in terms of
yeah.
how they do slabs. So, if there was no more SGC and a new company came in and wanted to kind of mimic that look, I'm not sure if they'd be able to. I'm sure, with collectors and with all the power they have, they'd probably be able to say, no, sorry, we kind of own that already. Thank you. Even though we've retired the brand, that's still our IP. You know what I mean? Something like that. I wouldn't surprise me. So,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, there's a lot. I think, there's a lot of companies that have come in that I think, like, I like CSG slabs and I like tag slabs better than PSA slabs also.
the
I would
CS,
rank PSA fourth. I really
agree.
would.
Yeah.
But
I hate the
um,
flips on CSGs, but the slabs are nice. Yeah.
yeah, I, I don't know. I guess anything could happen, right? It's corporate America, and I do believe that over time you're going to see these morph into one company with two brands. That's my belief. My belief is it's SGC will still be there, but I could be wrong. I'm not sitting in those board meetings, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to panic yet. I took the same approach when they bought them. I like the way my cards look in them. I'm going to continue to submit to them until I can't submit to them anymore. And then I will cross that bridge. Like, who do I
Yeah.
go to? How do I go? Do I submit anymore? I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah, you
theory.
and me both. You and me both. And I'm not grading quite as much as I was last year anyway. I mean, I still like doing subs, but it's at the same time, I don't see myself doing like wholesale 10 card subs to PSA. I just don't. I don't think I will ever do that. But
Yeah.
but maybe like you said, and it would just sort of circle back to kind of what you said at the beginning, and then we'll wrap this up. I think is like you mentioned Honda, I think before, and cars. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Honda. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's like there's other probably you mentioned craft before too. I mean, it's that's business too. You know what I mean? Like it's business 101 to kind of work the whole work the whole dissolution maybe or integration of the company you're acquiring into your business model, and you identify the redundancies, yada yada yada. But there's also they didn't. I don't. Did they acquire SGC so that Fanatics couldn't? Yeah, they may have. That may have been a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Because Fanatics, for the longest time was like they wanted to get involved in the grading space or whatever, and they probably still do. Um, Honestly, I thought they were a candidate to buy tag. I still thought maybe Fanatics could be interested in like a tag. with the whole
Yeah.
AI thing they have as their foundation, and that would be a niche for fanatics. I still kind of think that to some degree, but yeah, I think there's room to still have SGC there. Do they think it's probably comes down to dollars and cents like everything else. Is it worth the continued budget to keep that the brand afloat, so to speak? There's still got to be budget to keep for all the overhead and stuff of keeping a brand going, and those aren't conversations I have any info on, so who knows? But do you have any final thoughts here? I'm kind of like thought it out at this point. I just
Yeah.
thought it would be cool to kind of like jump on a call and kind of talk about it for a bit, because I really thought their
It's fun.
conversation was interesting, and just the timing of it was good, I thought.
It's going to be the buzz of the community for the next few days, and it should. It happened when they first bought him. It was the buzz of the community. I think my final thoughts there is I just think as long as there's a strategic reason for collectors to have SGC, they will. And I think there is. I think to your point, you don't want to give a company like Fanatics the opportunity to go get a player and try to make more competition. You want to hold on to the market share that you own, which they own pretty much the entire market share right now. So I think strategically it makes sense to keep them, as long as the strategy and the profitability align. I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, that could change a year from now, 5 years from now, because look at the landscape of the community in the last 5 years. It's changed. So, but today, I'm just going to continue to monitor it and continue to go about my collecting the way I want to do it, and we'll see how it shakes out.
You and me both, my friend. You and me both. I mean, I have a Frankenstein slab collection. I got a decent amount of PSA slabs. I've got more SGC slabs, but I don't have a small number of PSA slabs. So, but yeah, it's a pretty fascinating story. Yeah, and it's one that us in the hobby have to pay attention to, whether we like it or not, I guess, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
just kind of the way of how the hobby, how the hobby's doing business too. I mean, it's a hobby, it's also a business for a lot of people. And so thankfully it's much more of a hobby for me than a business. In fact, it's about 99% hobby. I sell a few cards on eBay here and there. But yeah, again, I just wanted to jump on here for a quick chat. I know we're about a half an hour. So everybody, if you've followed this along, I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining Steve and me here on this, what I'm calling the SGC Conversation. So Steve, thanks for jumping on with me here.
Thanks for letting me chime in, John.
Absolutely. I got my Hank Aaron, as you know, for the next Bargain Hunters on your channel. So I'm looking forward to doing that one.
Mine has shown up also, John. It's funny because you texted me about this and I was about to text you to say my card's shown up. So I got a couple videos I still have to do, including a VR for you. So I'm a little behind, but I anticipate giving you a ping and us getting that next Bargain Hunters out there soon.
I'll let you know right now, you'll get a few extra days, because I think my next video after this, I'll do a little update on the VR, and I think I'm going to give everybody a few more days. So
awesome.
It's all good.
I need it. I got behind all of a sudden. I don't know how that happened.
You'll set us back, and it's spring, weather's finally warming up. We're getting outside, and for me, work has gotten pretty busy. I'm sure for a lot of other people too. It's just life catches up, right? So, but it's been fun watching those so far. But yeah, so thanks again, Steve, for this. Really enjoyed talking with you as always, and you have a good weekend out there in Chicago.
Take care, John. Good talking.
All right, Steve. Take care. Bye now.